My parents refused to respect my vegan lifestyle, so I had to take drastic measures. My family has always been big meat eaters. My father hunts sometimes. The traditional big meal was always steak for everyone, myself included. I made a new friend in school who I noticed always had really interesting food at lunch. When I asked her about it, she told me she was vegan and offered me some of her food to try. I really liked it, so she said she would send me the recipe. She emailed it to me, along with some links to information about being vegan and the horrors of the meat industry. I stayed up all night reading and researching stuff about animal cruelty and abuse, and then next morning I told my parents I'd decided I was going to be a vegan now. They thought I was joking at first, and once they realized I was serious, my mom laughed and said, "You won't last 2 days as a vegan." But I was really dedicated. I bought vegan cookbooks and started making all my own meals, since my parents refused to make vegan food for dinner. I spent all my spare time reading horror stories about what happens to animals on meat farms, and I would cry for hours thinking about these poor defenseless creatures who just want to live their lives but get destroyed so someone can enjoy a hamburger. I sent some of those articles to my parents to try to get them to see the horrible things they were doing every time they ate meat, but they just told me they didn't want to be guilt-tripped and started deleting them without reading them. I told them they wouldn't feel guilt-tripped unless they had something to feel guilty about, and they had no real comeback for that. They just told me I needed to stop. My dad's birthday was coming up, and he always grills steak kebabs for it because they're his favorite food. I told them that I would not be participating and that my dad and I would have to celebrate his birthday on another day at a vegan restaurant. I planned to just lock myself in my room during dinner and pretend it wasn't happening. But even with my windows closed, I could smell the kebabs cooking, and I couldn't stop thinking about the poor cows that had to die so my parents could have dinner. I knew I had to say something to them, so I went out to the backyard where they were grilling. But once I could see the kebabs, I started crying and I couldn't stop. My mom came over and hugged me, and I thought she was just there to comfort me. But then she said, "You're ruining your dad's birthday. You need to stop," in my ear. I was so upset and betrayed that I shoved her away from me, but I guess I pushed her too hard because she fell all the way to the ground. I started to help her up, but before I could, my dad came over and asked me what the hell I'd done to my mother, and I started screaming back that none of this would be happening if they weren't unliving animals right in front of me. My mother started crying and said she couldn't take it anymore, and my dad brought me inside and laid into me, telling me I was making everyone miserable, and they dreaded seeing me every day because all I did was talk to them about animal abuse, and that all he wanted was one day of peace to enjoy his birthday, and I couldn't even give them that. I told him, "I don't think capital punishment should be acceptable on anyone's birthday," and he told me to go to my room while he figured out what to do to me. I went up to my room. At first I was fuming, but I kept thinking about how shocked my mother had looked when I shoved her, and I started feeling really bad. When my parents came up, I apologized for pushing my mother. My dad said he was sorry for yelling. We all agreed that things had gotten way too heated. My parents hugged me, and they told me they would make an effort to make vegetarian meals more often. I decided I could compromise and eat vegetarian with them as long as I live under their roof and go back to being a full vegan once I live on my own. But it's been a few months now, and honestly I'm thinking I might just stay vegetarian. It's so much easier.